I will call the January 17th meeting to order, and I will recognize Councilwoman Condon to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Lord, give us the wisdom and the grace to make the right decisions for our town tonight. Keep everyone safe that works for this town and that's overseas fighting for our right to be here. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Next item is the reading of the minutes from January 3rd, and we have, as y'all probably have, three whatever you call them,
minutes.
minutes. Since this original one is the one that's in our thing, I'm going to ask for a motion on that one, and then if we want to amend it, then we can amend it to the other, one of the other two, or a combination of, or whatever.
I move for the approval of the first set.
All right. And is there a second? Okay. And you will, well, I'm trying to, here they are. You have two more copies on there.
I have a plan. You want to hear the plan?
Yeah.
Okay, on the one with the most yellow, there's a sentence about halfway down that said, Mr. Walker addressed his concerns regarding the ordinance being renamed from 1515 to 1627. I think we ought to add that sentence and the roll call vote, and that's it. And let's vote on it quick.
So there's been a motion to amend Section B, second reading of Ordinance 1627, to add the statement, the sentence that Kathy's referring to, Mr. Walker then addressed, and
to add the
then
roll
the
call.
last one, well, Mr. Walker asked for a roll call, and then the vote. Juliet voted yes, Kathy yes, yada, yada, yada.
Don't y'all think that's a good idea?
Yes,
okay.
It's fine.
And then end it with Mr. Walker did not vote, or end it with the other thing?
You cannot not vote, right?
Correct.
Right. Well, then add that last sentence. Mayor King stated that according to Robert's rules, that choosing not to vote the same as blah, blah, blah.
That's a good idea. Add the last sentence.
So good. That whole thing then.
All right. So there's been a motion. Was it?
It's an amendment.
Second? All right. Let me get here. Any more discussion? Seeing none, then all in favor of the minutes to be approved as amended, do so with show of hands. All opposed? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Next item is the administrative briefing. Mr. Brown, anything you want to add?
Yes, sir. I have three things. Begin with Judge Simon, who is Richland County Magistrate, has decided that we're not going to do any more video bond hearings, and they're going to do all the bond settings down at Richland County for us at no cost.
At no cost?
No cost to us. They do it for everybody else. And we're only talking maybe 3 or 4 a week, and he said that's not a big deal. They do hundreds. You know, we're just going to slide right into their system using their magistrate court.
That's good.
So that saves us a lot of hassle here with having to set up for the bond hearings. The other thing, Municipal Association currently collects our insurance fees from all the insurance companies around here, and then they divvy it up at the end of the year. Well, they're currently charging 4% for that collection fee, and they've decided to drop that down to 1%.
Really?
Again, it doesn't affect us. You know, they just did that and they collected it for administrative costs.
It doesn't affect us if it goes from 4 to 1?
Yeah, but they're not divvying that up. They're still keeping the money for additional costs. It's just not their administrative cost anymore. They're calling it something else.
Oh, so I thought they charged us the 4% to collect that money.
No.
So they charged the insurance or whoever to
Oh, the insurance company.
Correct.
I see.
Okay.
So I mean, it's saving them money.
Okay.
Change our revenue. But it's good news anyways to see that they're adjusting things. Also, Cornerstone, the inspection from Richmond County happened this morning. More to follow on that. They got like 3 pages of stuff. And we're gonna have to get an engineer to go over it to get us an estimate. And then we'll come back to council and let y'all know what it's gonna cost to fix everything over there and bring it up to Richmond County standards.
Okay.
Do we have any more of these?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I mean, we've got 2 other projects that are currently underway, and we have bonds for those, and I'm well aware of them, and we're taking notice and
All right.
putting them on everybody's calendar to make sure we don't
All right.
let any more
Okay.
drop through the cracks.
I understand.
That's all I got.
That's it. Any questions to Mr. Brown on the administrative briefing? Seeing none, the next thing is the amendments to the agenda. Any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, consideration of communication. Any consideration of communication?
You ought to do that thing.
Oh, yeah. I received a letter the other day from City of Columbia Mayor Benjamin on proclaiming January the 18th, which is tomorrow, South Carolina United Teal and White Day, which has to do with cervical cancer education, screening, and testing. So I asked Bob to do the proclamation. We don't have to read it or anything, and they're not going to be here to present it, so we don't have to present it. But if nobody has any objections, then we will proclaim January the 18th to be the United Teal and White Day in Irmo.
Okay.
Okay.
And we'll let them know that we did it, and then there'll be that. Any other consideration of communication?
Did y'all talk about that lady with the carport?
No, sir, we haven't addressed it. We're gonna wait until we hear from the HUD folks to see what, I'm sure they have to do an investigation. They said they were going to look into it.
Well, I mean, okay, I went over and talked. Y'all know what I'm talking about? The lady is suing us, okay, or wants to sue us. I went over and talked to her, and her request is to put that carport up, and she went before the, I guess, the ZBA, and she went, I don't know who else she talked to.
Well, she came to the planning committee. Oh,
Planning-
she came to me and I said no. And then
Right.
she came to the ZBA and they said no, and that's where we went.
Right. You know, she's disabled, so to speak. That's what this lawsuit's all about. And make a long story short, I think we ought to at least hear from her and consider it, because what she's asking for is not out of line with what else is on that street. And I looked at it. Now, the actual location may be out of line, and we can work with that, but putting a carport up is not out of line with other members of the, that people on that street.
Well, I'm not sure what her disability is, because she said it was only temporary because she had hip surgery.
Well, she's ready.
So
She
we're gonna,
hip surgery, and plus she's got knee surgery coming up.
again, it's only temporary.
Yeah.
And it's not a lawsuit, it's just a letter to the
That's correct.
HUD to ask them to look at it, which is probably not in their jurisdiction, so, but,
Well, I mean, HUD can't make us do anything. It's just,
Well, I mean, it's not a matter of making us do anything. It's just that, she's requesting a variance or the ability to build a thing, and I know.
in our process,
Talk
she's
about
been
it.
through that. And the process is, and it didn't meet the guidelines, so she can build the carport, she's just got to build it 5 foot, 10 foot back from where she wants it, 15 foot backwards.
That's what I'm saying. Did anybody, and I don't think anybody addressed that to her or talked to her about that.
she
You
came to
did?
the ZBA with her contractor.
And they told her, build it 5 feet back and we'll let you
They
do
said
it?
move it back level with the house and put it in the backyard. Just can't put it in front of the house like she wanted. And nobody
Okay.
can understand why, but she had no justification for a variance.
Oh, I understand that, okay. Well, I mean, I think we ought to at least make sure that we explain that to her and she understands that, if you build it side of it. Excuse me, y'all having an A-B conversation, you see your way out, okay?
Well, this is also not consideration
Basically,
of communication either.
It
But
is.
you're sharing something with the lady, that's
It is
fine.
communications,
But you
ladies,
shared it, and
and
you
I'm
wanna
not
talk to
finished
her and
sharing
tell
it.
her.
I'm not finished sharing it. So my question is, if she comes to council, the next council meeting, would you be receptive to her explaining her position?
She can call. I mean, if she wants. That's
To
all
the
she can do is
council,
call.
to the council, I'm saying.
Sure, I mean, she's welcome to come talk to
Yeah,
council.
any citizen can come.
Okay.
Any citizen can, but I mean, there's nothing else to explain to her, Mr. Walker. I mean, she was here when the ZBA, I had her in the front
Yeah.
office. Vi is sitting around here somewhere, and she knows all about it. I mean,
Okay.
we need to change our ordinance if you want to allow her to build that thing under what our rules are now.
But she could build it if it was like you said, 5 feet back or 4 feet back.
15 or whatever.
With her house, that's right, she's got plenty of room.
She does. I went by the property. I can show you pictures. I have pictures on
I
my
don't see what
phone.
the problem is then if she
see.
can build it even with her house.
She doesn't want to.
I didn't go by.
She wants to build it where she wants to build it.
You were off today, see.
Well, okay.
But yeah, if she moves it back in compliance with our zoning, then she can build it.
That's all right.
Okay. Well, all right.
Any other consideration of communications? Seeing none, next item is presentation by citizens. This is where anyone who wants to address items on the agenda may do so at this time. All we ask is you give us your name and address for the record and the agenda item you want to speak to. Seeing none. Next is unfinished business, second reading of ordinance 1701 to amend the Irmo zoning ordinance, Article 2, use of tables. This is the one that has to do with the food trucks. Is there a motion for second reading? No motion?
Second reading on the food truck, we already put the,
Well, we got to have a motion. Is there a motion?
so move.
Second?
Second, did y'all do the conditions?
Yeah, I was gonna say, didn't you get a copy of it? Everybody? The conditions?
Yes, sir, oh, it was on the iPad,
Oh, okay.
yes, sir, with the conditions.
What are the conditions? I don't have them.
One sentence or 2 sentences.
It's on the iPad?
And what
Oh,
are-
it
what are
is,
they?
yeah. Ordinance 1701 food trucks. Okay, that, you talking about the form or the,
Right before the chart, you'll see what the conditions is,
Okay, I see
I
it up
see,
here.
okay.
Any use must be approved. Well, so we're going to turn this over to you to pre-approve everything or not?
With a food truck.
Well,
I don't agree with that.
no. I think if we're going to do something, we ought to do something. If we're not going to do something, then don't. But I don't think we ought to dump it on the town administrator's responsibility to issue a permit and approve them. If we want to do something, we ought to do it. If we want to have some guidelines, we
Needs
ought
to
to
be
have
on
some guidelines.
us. Needs to be on us.
Needs to be what?
Needs to be on us as a
Yeah,
council.
we need to come up
Okay,
with
so
them. And
what do you think, what do you suggest?
Right now, you have to come and get approved. I don't see anything wrong with that, keeping it the
well, we
way it
just
is.
come up with the guidelines, and then they're either meet the conditions or they don't meet the conditions, which are whatever. And I think that's the
What
problem.
guidelines, I mean, besides being a business, if here it says you have to have a business license in town, what are the guidelines would have?
Well, that's not on our agenda for discuss since we ain't got it on there. So I think we'd have to come up with stuff, and I may approve, I may not like them, I may agree with them, who knows? Because we ain't got nothing to agree with.
Well, is it a
What
daily
guidelines
occurrence?
do you
Is it a daily occurrence?
No, it's not. It says.
No, he's saying these ought to be the guidelines. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Is
Yeah.
it daily? Where can you do it? For
You know.
what reason? How long?
How many?
How many? Yeah.
Well, I think for the purposes of that Cherry Blossom Festival, he's talking about, what, 4 or 5 trucks or something like that?
That was what the proposal was. He just
Yeah.
wanted to bring food trucks in on that one day, which was, I believe, April 1st.
Yeah, something like that.
I thought maybe he was here.
Yeah.
Well,
Why don't we defer this and
my suggestion
do
would be
that? Write it like
to
that.
defer.
I mean, for what? A list of criteria or what?
The
I
council
mean,
approves, yeah. Just like anything else and all these other stuff in here, council approved these things. Bob doesn't approve all this stuff in here. Council has approved it and made the conditions in writing. So that there's no, somebody saying, well, he approved mine but didn't approve his, or get into all that kind of stuff. Or Bob calls us up on the phone one day and says, I got all
Well, do you agree that you need to have a Irmo business license?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one criteria. The next criteria you're saying it would be,
Where can they park
well,
and when?
well, see, that's just it. We don't know if they're going to require, if somebody's going to come to says, I want to do it on the 4th of July, and then somebody else comes and says, I want to do it during Okra Strut, or somebody comes and says, I want to do it during the Cherry Blossom Festival. That's a moving target. It's a dynamic date, so we can't say we're going to allow it once a month or something like that. You can't say that. So, I mean, we can allow it in the park areas, you know, the community park and then the gazebo. That's certainly a criteria we can have, but then, you know,
Well,
maybe would that be something that y'all would consider a criteria?
Yeah, I think that's part of the criteria, is kind of determining all that.
But the bottom line is that they have to go to Bob to get approval on this. I mean, not to us.
Well,
Every
if
day.
they meet the conditions, whatever those conditions are, he just looks at the thing and says, yeah, you meet them, or no, you don't.
Right. The conditions are they have to be in the park, and then you have to have a business license. And
But those are the things we need to approve so that he's not stuck there with somebody coming in and then he feels
Yeah.
like, oh, I need to call council and,
You can defer this and rewrite it and it would work.
yeah, well, that's fine. I will defer and rewrite it. That's no problem. I don't have a problem with that at all. I mean, it's just that I need to make sure I understand. Bob, we have to put that in writing, these dots, these bullet points.
yeah, whatever the conditions are so that we can approve those.
Available food trucks only allowed in the community park and in the gazebo park.
And I think one of the problems you're going to have over there is, I don't know how big those trucks are, but if they're going to park in a way that they take up 3 parking spaces so that they can have people come and both get into all that. People come up over and, you know,
And
some of that just needs to be worked out where we tell them,
to
you can
consider
park here,
local
but you can't take up one spot.
restaurants, you might make it for certain events approved by the town. I mean, we got to think about the local businesses because I know it would hurt somebody.
I mean,
Well, yeah, but I'm saying though, 4th of July.
Well, that's what we'd have to put is,
the orchestra, the Cherry Blossom Festival.
yeah.
I mean, yeah.
They may want to come over on a great Saturday or weekday that's got beautiful weather and park. I don't have a problem with them doing that if they think they can make money and come over and park. But I think we just, you know, if we got 10 of them over there and they're all fussing with each other, or one of them shows up and parks in a way that takes up 10 spaces,
Yeah.
and we go, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Or they come up over there and they decide they want to park here because it's level. I just think we ought to decide that, give it to Bob and say under these conditions, yes, and then if they meet that condition, he gives it. If they don't, then
Well,
They adjust.
what other conditions you cite?
I don't know. I ain't thought about it. It's not on here, so I haven't thought about it. Nothing's on here for us to
We'll be on the
think.
next meeting. I mean, are there any conditions
Well,
that I can add to that?
Yeah.
You was thinking ahead of
I would just put as many as you can think of, and then we can add to it or mark them off.
Okay, so we'll put those conditions on it for next meeting. And I'll just move that we defer this until the next meeting.
So,
You know, if you allow them like in residential, you know. you're
Yeah,
allowed-
see, that's
you can't
some of the
allow-
stuff.
You can't specify a number. You're gonna allow food trucks in any, single-family residential, which is what the community park in this park is. They could be all over the neighborhoods. They could have 20 trucks roll in, but you have no control over it.
Yeah.
You allow them in.
Or we can say they're only in commercial, but then if you do that, they can't be in the park. Or you'd say they can be in commercial or the park with permission. I don't know. But I think that's what needs to be worked out. Because I don't think they ought to be riding through residential neighborhoods. But if they want to go to any commercial area or, I don't know, public parking place, which.
And it would
here
almost
and
have
there.
to be an event.
To me, yes.
Yeah, but I mean, somebody may decide that whatever day's going to be warm, the temperature's going to be 75, and everybody's going to be at the park, and they want to drive their truck over there. And,
I can tell you that in Rhode Island, there was a very large park in my town. And what they did is they would have an auction for trucks and different concessions to come in, and it would be highest bidder would win it for the summer or whatever time frame.
Didn't City of Columbia do some kind of thing on their city streets that where you can only get this spot, this spot, this spot? That might be something.
Didn't Casey make a whole area for
But
food?
it's closed.
I know,
West
but it
Columbia.
closed, I know. West Columbia,
Didn't work out well, though.
yeah.
Yeah, they had too many trucks and not enough people, and
Then they had not enough people and too many trucks.
heat.
Yeah.
I think, too, heat killed it. All right, so there was a motion
To defer.
To defer.
Barry, to defer. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on deferring? Seeing
No,
none?
but if you can get Too Fat to Fly to come, I'll go.
Say it again?
If you get Too Fat to Fly, I'll go wherever they are.
Yeah, they're
Those are
local boys.
local boys, yeah. They graduated from Irmo High School. I'm proud of them.
And I would probably say add something that has to do with events and then have something to do with not events. So if
Yeah.
somebody wants, I don't, but yeah. That way we can have it, if it's events, we can say you can do this, that, and the other, have 4 or whatever. If it's not events, then you can just do whatever.
Okay.
All right, all in favor of deferring then, do so with show of hands. All opposed? Next reading is ordinance 1702. First reading, is there a motion for first reading of 1702?
I so moved.
Second,
I second.
any discussion? And this is the one that we are starting over with the same wording, but a brand-new ordinance. Any discussion?
Mr. Waits, what's the difference between this one and 1617?
1627, or whatever it was?
Did
Did-
he separate what is a recreational vehicle, what is a motorhome, even
Did
though
he
the
ask?
Department of Transportation has?
Nobody.
No, I'm saying the ordinance that we passed second reading on last week.
That's what I was showing you the
There's
pictures
no
at that
difference.
time.
Remember the complaint about the renumbering that you made? So,
Oh, so it's the same ordinance?
same one, just it's renumbered, so we're starting at square one.
Okay, so then what I was talking about was true then, it needed to be started over from day one.
Not really, because
No.
I talked with the Ethics Commission, and they said it could be removed from the table indefinitely.
Well, that wasn't my concern, is that we called it a new ordinance number.
No, if you look at,
Excuse me, I'm talking to Mr. Waits. Yeah, but I'm saying, that's the same ordinance we passed
Yes,
second reading on.
it's the same ordinance.
And it was just starting over from scratch, with 1702.
Yes, we are.
yes,
And isn't this from, not DOT, where'd we get it from? Somewhere, a state agency, didn't we?
What?
The definition,
The definition,
DMV.
Right behind it.
DMV, okay,
transport police.
good.
They said the reason they have two is because one is taxed higher than the other,
Ah,
even though they're one and the same.
got it.
Under their definition, you put a camper on the back of a pickup truck, that's considered an RV. If you pull it behind your truck, it's an RV. If it's self-propelled, it's an RV. But for tax purposes, a motor home is
Taxed
at a lower
higher?
rate than
Oh, a lower rate?
A lower rate.
than an RV.
Really?
Oh, because it's worth so much more. Yeah, that makes sense.
Huh,
So this is but this is dealing with RVs and motorhomes.
It's making one definition, because all of our ordinances in the town only address RVs. And in our definition, it doesn't say that a motor home is an RV.
Okay, so this is gonna take care of
This
that.
should straighten it out.
Any more discussion? All in favor then of first reading of ordinance 1702, do so with show of hands. All opposed? Next item is first reading of 1703. Let me put this here. This is amending section 264. I can explain that if we get a motion in a second. Is there a motion for approval?
I make a motion.
And a second.
Second.
This is the one, actually this one 264 and the next one 268. When this discussion came up about 1627, Councilman Walker had brought up at the meeting that we were not following that flow chart. The flow chart has to do with adding stuff to the agenda.
Yes, it does.
I went back to our ordinances to read because I felt like somewhere in the back of my mind there was something that commented about that. Under 268, which is really has to do with special called meetings, but under 268, in our current ordinance right now, on the last sentence, it says amendments to the agenda may be considered with approval of 2/3 vote of members present. The agenda of the special meeting will be blah, blah, blah. If you read that right there, then you could believe that we need 2/3 majority vote to amend the agenda for any reason ever. When I asked Bob about that to kind of clarify, he was under the impression that had to do with special call meeting, but it really doesn't say that 100%. So what I've asked to do was to go back to 264 and kind of restructure that, and then restructure 268 so that we can keep both of those separate. 264 has to do with regular meetings, 268 has to do with special meetings.
Excuse me, on 268, it says right now, matters to be considered by a council at a regular or special meeting.
Yeah, and that's why we're taking that off.
Gotcha.
Under the next thing. While we were under this 264, I felt like there were some things in there that we need to clarify that we've done kind of both ways in the past. We've kind of had sometimes where we have approvals. Approvals don't necessarily, by Robert's rule, require a second, nor do discussions. And sometimes I have said we got to have a second. Sometimes I've said, oh, we don't. And
Wait, we're talking about 1703 or?
yeah, 1703, paragraph A. So what I want to do is, while we're amending that and changing that, is adding to that all items from now on out, whether it's old business, new business, or discussion, has to have a motion and a second before we discuss them.
Well, why do you
That way there's no misunderstanding in the future, because we've done it both ways.
Makes sense.
We've done it both
Yeah,
ways.
but we understood the discussions were exactly what that was, a discussion. Why would you need a second? Why
Well,
would you need to get approval to have a discussion? I mean,
if this is a council meeting and government is done by the majority of council, not by one, then in order for us to have a discussion, it really should be at least two people that want to discuss it. Otherwise, we should not be discussing it.
But if you have a motion and a second, you got to vote, and you don't
Right.
vote on a discussion.
exactly.
I know what you mean,
Yeah,
but
I have to think about that. I ain't thought about that. Well, you would have, we may have to change that or defer that away.
Discussions are exactly what it is, a discussion. You put it on the agenda because you want to discuss an item amongst the five lists.
Yeah, but if,
Whether you want to hear about it or not, it's not.
if the majority of council doesn't want to, whether it's me or you or whoever puts it on there, the majority of council don't want to, there's no reason for all five of us to sit here and listen to somebody if the majority of council don't. Same thing as the other stuff.
Sorry, yes, it is.
It's the
If
same
it's
thing
a-
as an approval.
If you put a discussion on the agenda, it's because it was something that somebody felt like we needed to talk about. Now, if we can't
If you
get
put-
together, the five of us can't discuss it outside this room, where can we discuss it at? Where can the five of us get together legally and discuss something?
lizard's thicket.
If you put anything on the
Breakfast.
agenda,
Right.
it should require a second, or otherwise, council shouldn't mean the same thing as an approval.
Well, anything action item, I agree, but this is not, a discussion is not an action item.
Well,
We're discussing it to this, probably.
let's go through
it's
this,
gotta
and
be
then if
next
somebody wants to make an amendment to take it off, we can do that, take off the discussion. The next item on there, item 2, has to do with amendments to the agenda. We're basically stating there that the amendments to the agenda of a regular scheduled meeting may be considered with the approval of majority of council present, subject to any applicable state laws. And then the last one.
With that one, you're violating state law because it needs a 2/3 majority.
No, for adding, not amending, for adding.
For adding?
Yes.
Yeah, for adding stuff to the agenda, you need a 2/3.
Counsel, what's the difference between adding and amending?
An amending is where
It
you take
changes.
something off or you move it. That's amending the agenda. If you're amending the agenda to add something, then you got to go by the flow chart. If you're amending the agenda to remove something or move it, then you don't have to go by the flow because you're not adding it. That flow chart only has to do with adding.
So you're saying that adding and amending is different, counsel?
Yes.
Okay, you're saying there's a difference between the two? So
Amending
I can
is-
add something, and that would be an addition or amendment. But if I add something, that's not an amendment.
If something's not on the agenda and you're adding it to the agenda, then you got to go by state law. If something's on the agenda and you're moving it or deleting it,
Right.
then you just get a simple, it's just like amending it as we did a while ago to defer. You just get a motion and a second and you make an amendment and
Why
it
don't you-
passes, it passes.
But I thought the proper thing was to suspend the rules and just take it out of order. Why not? What do you mean,
That'd be
Why not?
different. Suspending the rules would be different. You may want to take something from down here to up there, but you're not moving, you're not changing the ordinance, you're not changing the item, you're not changing anything. You're just moving it so that somebody in the audience is here. You want them to speak while they're
Right.
here and then leave. You take them out of the bottom and put them to the top.
So that's not the same as,
Adding would be adding something that's not on there to start with, right?
that's amending the agenda,
No,
to add that new item.
No, you're adding an item. Amending the agenda is editing the agenda.
It's
Yeah.
all semantics.
Hold up.
Yeah.
It is,
Stop.
yeah.
I want to add something to the agenda. Like, for instance,
It's not on there.
right, that would be an amendment to the agenda.
No,
Yeah, if you wanted to add something, that would be an amendment.
Right? Okay.
no, we're not supposed to do that after it's been published.
That's correct.
Exactly.
Eddie.
That requires a 2/3 votes to do that,
To add something.
according to the
To add
flow
something.
chart.
Yes.
Well,
To
that's
add
something.
amending. I just said I want to amend the agenda by adding a new item on it.
By adding.
By adding.
Right. So that's
You said by adding an item.
right. That requires a 2/3 vote.
But if I want to amend the agenda by moving item 10
right
to item 3.
12, or right 10 to 3.
Yeah,
That's a suspend the rules and do that.
No,
Take that
you
out
don't
of
have
order
to. You
and
can
put it
do it
through.
right there, amendment
right
of the
there.
agenda if
Huh?
you want to take something off.
Wait a minute. Two of y'all were talking at the same time. I want to suspend the rules to make item 10 now take it up as item 3. That's not suspending
can
the
do it
rules
that
to
way.
do that?
But if
All right,
you're
so
already
that's-
at amendments, then you do it right then. If you've already passed that, then yeah, you could try to suspend the rules.
So even if I'm at the amendment agenda, I can't suspend the rules? We
Why
can
would you need
suspend the
to?
rules as soon as we get into call the meeting in order. I want to suspend the rules to take the amendment agenda out of order. Is that right?
You can suspend the rules if the
As soon as
council.
the council meeting's called to order, I want to take amendments to the agenda out of order. Is that right?
Well, you could do that if they.
Okay,
agree
so
to it,
that's,
but yeah.
is that not adding that, what you call adding it to the agenda then?
no, it's already on there.
It's already on there.
All you're doing is moving.
Okay,
it.
so what is that called? Amending the agenda? or
Amend the
adding it?
agenda is moving things around.
Right, I want to suspend the rules, as soon as we call a meeting in order, I want to suspend the rules to take amendments to the agenda out of order, make that the first thing we do. Is that suspending the rules, or is that adding the agenda, adding the amendments to the agenda to the rules, or what?
If you're
What have I
suspending
done?
the rules, then you've asked to suspend the rules.
So what's the difference between that and adding what you're saying here in your ordinance?
I don't know
saying-
what the difference matters.
It matters a great deal, because what
doesn't.
you've got here doesn't make any sense. We have a method to do this already. It's called suspend the rules
That's
and
one
take
method,
it out of
but
order.
that's not the whole method. If you wanted to change something like we did, you couldn't suspend the rules and change it and blah, blah, blah. You would need to amend the agenda to do that because you're changing stuff.
Changing what now?
If you're changing from unfinished business to new business or
That's-
taking it off of
Right,
that and putting it
suspending
under
the rules and
discussion
taking
or
it out of
whatever,
order.
you'd be doing more than taking it out of order. But
Explain to me how am I doing more by taking it out of order?
we could explain this all night long.
I want to understand before I vote on it. I don't think Ms. Councilman.
Are we
Councilman
talking
Collins-
about from unfinished to new, or is that what you're talking about? If we move something from,
Okay, let's get the semantics straight. When you say move,
Uh-huh.
you want to take something from A to B, or 1 to 3, or 3 to 1. That's called, to me, when you do that, you're calling it a move, but that's actually suspending the rules and taking it out of order. Okay?
Or amending.
Or amending the agenda. That
Okay, if you want to say that's amending the agenda, that's fine. But when you do that, you can't change the item ordinance number, which is what he did, and call it a new ordinance, and
Yes,
then
you can.
say, okay.
Because you're amending the agenda to do so.
Then if you're amending the agenda and you're creating a new ordinance, you have to follow the flow chart, and it has to have a
You're
two-thirds
not
vote of
creating a
council.
new ordinance.
Why are you shaking your head?
Because you're not creating a new ordinance. The ordinance that
If you
want to-
change the number of
No.
the ordinance from 1
it
to
doesn't
3,
matter what the
that's a
number of
new
the ordinance is,
No,
there.
Why doesn't it matter?
Because it's the title of what you're changing that you're changing. It's the title. It's not the number. The number is an assigned number for reference to make it easy to follow.
The number
Make it
is
easy
the
to follow.
ordinance number
Look,
that's coming in.
we can continue to argue about this. We have our parliamentarian of the council here, and he can.
And let me say this, and this might clear it up. Let's say we sit down to here and we got an ordinance that says ordinance number 17666. And I go, ooh, I don't like that.
666.
I don't like
I
that
want to
number.
change it to ordinance 17669. That's not it's taking rules, that's not suspending the rules, taking it out of order. That's an amendment to the agenda
It's
to
taking-
change an ordinance number, and that's completely fine to do so.
You just created a new ordinance.
No, I
If
didn't.
you publish that agenda with 17666 in it, and we get to council, and you want to change that from 17666 to 17999 or whatever, you have created a new ordinance.
No.
But why are we going through why we just change his ordinance to start over again?
It's sitting on the
Like-
table with an assigned number, and to keep from having confusion, it would.
Like I said, when I went and looked in our ordinance book
Wording.
and saw 268, and it had this wording here, I felt like we needed to clarify that and make it one thing under this one and one thing under that one.
But that's not what we're doing here.
Yes, it is.
You're trying to say that it takes a majority of council to suspend the rules to move stuff around. And I'm saying, fine, you can suspend the rules and move stuff around all day long with a majority of council as long as you don't amend the agenda to do it.
Well-
And you're saying that that's not true. You can amend the agenda to do that. And that's getting around state law, which
No, it's
you're
not.
saying here, this is subject to any applicable state laws, which is not.
Which means if you're adding something to the agenda, you go by the flow chart. If you're not, you're
Then,
just amending
okay,
it, then you do.
All right, then I want to make a motion that we amend this ordinance to say approval of 2/3 majority of council. And then that'll be,
All right, so
Compliant with
Councilman
state law.
Walker has made a motion to amend to add 2/3
the number
to
2.
number 2.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Wait a minute, is that 4 or 3?
It's on purpose.
264.
No. 2/3 majority is that 4 or 3 of
2/3 would be
It's the
4.
same thing, it's 4.
It's,
Each one of us is 20% of the
Well,
council.
you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. So 4 of us would have to vote, yes,
Or 2/3 or 3/4.
or 3.
yes.
Got it. I hate fractions, okay.
And the reason it's 2/3 under special meeting is when you have a special meeting, you normally got one thing on the agenda. And if somebody wants to add something, then yeah, it needs to be a supermajority in order to add something to that agenda since you're only calling it for a special meeting.
But this is just amendment,
And this is just for the regular meeting, and you can
Okay.
amend stuff by moving it on the agenda.
and 3 of us can do it.
Yeah.
The majority, okay.
So is there a second? So it's no second, and that fails for lack of second. The next one on there is item 5, consideration of communications. This is something I felt like we need to kind of clear up too. Usually when councils have consideration of communications or receipt of communications or whatever they have on there, then it has to be something that they're sharing. And you can see the list of stuff on there that it may have to do with. It's not a time of debate. It's not a time to bring stuff up, and it's just a time to share something like this little thing here, or like you said about the lady over there. You share it. You don't ask questions. You just move on. If a council member wants to ask somebody something, did I understand you right, whatever, then that's fine. But it's not a debate time.
I have an
We just
example
needed to clear that up a little bit.
that I meant to say during the consideration. The shrimp man, the man from Buford, you know? He's well known for fresh seafood. We'll be at Heritage Farms Friday in Irmo.
Oh, up here.
Isn't that what it is, right? Yes, okay. That's important. Do you know, he's excellent. He usually has snapper and grouper. Anyway, just so you know. Okay, that's a good
All right.
example, isn't it?
So,
wait a minute, where's that written at, though? You have it written someplace where I can
Right there.
follow up on it?
It was in the newspaper.
Oh, okay. Okay.
so that's all of that. Now,
I'm still back to number 2.
yeah,
I don't agree
discussions.
with that.
Well,
You know,
you got the discussion thing. You want to make a motion on that? To take discussions out of that old business and new business, and then we can decide on
We ought
discussions
to,
later.
since it's,
yeah, well,
if we make a motion and we're taking action, I expect us to vote.
right.
And I know what you're trying to get things in a line, get things organized, the same for each, but I don't think we can do it for discussion.
So,
So you make a motion, take it out, and,
Amend that to take out discussion.
all right, I
all
said
right. Item A. Remove
Excuse me.
discussions. Any discussion about that? Yeah, I need to think about that a little bit longer.
We may
I
need
think that's
to
what-
add something for that.
Well, and I remember we took discussions off the agenda years ago, and then
We
we put
did.
them back on so that people could share, communicate. The problem with discussion is either with a motion or not, there's no way to end discussion.
You're right.
Because there's no question. So even if you don't have a motion and second, you still could be there all night, basically, because you can't call a question on something you ain't got a
No,
question.
why don't you put a time limit on it?
We did
We tried.
do that, or didn't we? Didn't we try?
Yeah,
to
that
add
didn't
something?
work. We tried that. That didn't work either.
Yeah,
We can do it now.
we can do it. I mean, what we did at one time, and y'all can correct me, I can't remember, was we either said everybody has 3 minutes or something, and then that was it. Or you had 3 minutes and then you could come back with another. I can't remember. It was something to that
It was
effect.
whatever we did, you didn't follow it anyway, so I mean,
Well, we didn't vote for it. We didn't pass it.
Yes, we did.
No, I don't think
We
we
did pass it because you asked them for a timer, remember?
Oh, yeah, you got a
That
timer.
was with the people.
Where is our timer? Oh, it's
Thing right here. I might time y'all.
It's all right. It's all right.
Well,
I
that's
think-
not it.
I think we're wasting,
I don't know how to do it.
we're wasting a lot of time here.
And is that a
Anyway.
hammer or something?
Blackjack.
Is this?
It's blackjack. Casey gets attacked.
Yeah. I thought we had one of those little fold-up things.
Actually, Eric should have that.
But
Give him the
did
blackjack.
have something. We can look at that and see. I don't know. I don't think we passed it.
We did?
I think it's 5 minutes the first round and 3-minute rebuttal round is what we did.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe we don't need to do anything.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't figure out how to work none of that stuff. Anyway, all right, so there's a motion and a second to take discussion out. Been discussion. All in favor then of doing so, do so with show of hands.
But I think we need to write something about it. Maybe not tonight, but the next reading.
No, we have already, right?
A
We have on discussions.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to look at that and see for sure.
Who seconded that motion?
I did.
Barry, yeah, Kathy made the amendment, yeah.
And messed up his,
Next one is 1704.
Okay, wait a minute. We haven't voted on this.
Well, that's right, we just voted on the amendment.
But I'm
That's
still
right.
on number 2. That's, again, if this is subject to state law.
That's
which is
right.
What you're saying.
That's right. It's
State law
subject to state
says-
law.
What does state law say? State law says you have to have a 2/3
If you're adding
majority.
If you're adding something,
amendment,
sir.
so.
If
You're adding something, not if you're moving it.
State law says if you amend the agenda, you need 2/3.
No, it does not.
State law says if you amend
What do
the
you mean
agenda
state law
to
says
add,
not? What is that? You got the paper right in front of you. Amendments to the agenda, FOI law.
after the meeting begins, an item upon which action can be taken only may be added to the agenda by a 2/3 vote. Added to the agenda. Doesn't say amending, it just says added to the agenda.
It's under amendments to the agenda,
Right.
genius.
Amendments means
Come
many
on,
things.
genius.
Amendments means adding, deleting,
Genius.
moving, all kind of amendments.
Oh, I mean, what does that mean to you?
I will entertain a call to vote since we've had plenty of discussion on there.
But I'm saying that's, you read the state law and you're saying this is applicable, subject to
All right.
applicable state
If
law.
you're adding stuff to the agenda, and that's not. But if we are adding stuff to the agenda, then it needs a 2/3 vote.
Two-third
If
vote.
we're not,
I agree with
then we
that.
just need simple majority.
I call the
And the
question.
rule doesn't do that?
The question has been called. All in favor of calling the question, do so a show of hands.
Okay.
All right.
All opposed?
This,
All opposed? And all in favor then of ordinance 17-3 as amended with the discussions removed, do so a show of hands. All opposed? And next is item 1704. This is number 268. This is the one that kind of said regular meeting and special call. We took the regular meeting out. Let's get a motion in a second. Is there a motion for approval of 1704?
I so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
this is what.
This
we're
is the
saying.
one where,
Mhm.
and I think Bob said we're also changing the title. Originally, it said agenda and order of business. Now it says
Order of proceeding.
rules of order and order of business. Is that right?
Correct.
Rules of order and order of business.
Where does it say that?
In that third line on that top paragraph.
Got it, okay.
And then we're changing 268. Oh, wait a minute. Excuse me. Rules of order and order of business is what's on the book right now.
Yeah.
What we're changing the new title to is agenda and order of proceedings for special meetings.
Right.
Now, we're removing paragraph A in its entirety and then changing it to what's on the thing there. And basically, all that got taken out was at a regular meeting, and I think that's it. Is that correct, Bob? We just took out regular meeting,
I think so.
shall be placed on a written agenda, prepared by the music, posted 24 hours.
Looks like you also added in the statement about publicly posted 24 hours.
Yeah, 24 hours in advance, instead of the old one just said shall be placed.
And
By noon of
amendments
the
to
day
the
preceding.
agenda of a special meeting must be considered with a 2/3 vote.
Yeah,
Okay, got it.
and everything else is the same. 1 through 7 and then B is all the same. So we're changing the title and then we're adding a few sentences and then just calling that one the special meeting, rules of order and proceeding.
So what are you
yada,
saying now? What are you mumbling? I can't understand this.
yada. Well,
You
they're
saying
both
it's-
there.
The amendments to the agenda of any special meeting may be considered with a 2/3 vote of members present.
Right,
Only if it's a special meeting,
special meeting,
But in the other meeting, it just has to be a simple
a
majority.
majority, that's
regular
right.
meeting.
Why is that? I mean,
Because a special or emergency meeting only has 24 hours for it to be published.
right.
And if you're going to change something, it's not giving the public due notice. So it
Well, if we're
takes
calling a
for,
special meeting order to discuss whatever the item is, it's a special meeting, then that's basically all you're there for. So there should be no reason to add anything else to that agenda unless the supermajority agree, yeah, we need to add this, then fine. But if not, then we won't. We'll just stick to whatever's on there. So it makes it a little bit harder to add stuff to a special meeting as opposed to, or amend stuff to a special meeting as opposed to a regular meeting, which it should be. Because normally when you call a special meeting, then you're only there for hopefully one purpose. But it just clarifies that into this one has to do with special meetings, the other one has to do with regular meetings.
regular meeting. Got it.
And because after I went back and looked, after you brought up that we were adding stuff or amending stuff, I knew something was in our ordinance, went back and read it. And when I read that, I thought, well, based on that, the way it's worded, you, me, anybody could assume or interpret that that meant 2/3 majority vote, which Bob said, no, that was really for special meetings. We just didn't do a good job years ago. of
All right.
Not that way.
So we're fixing this.
Yeah.
Bless you.
So, any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor then of 1704, do so with show of hands. And next is presentation by citizens. This is where anyone who would like to address council on anything, regardless if it's on the agenda or not, may do so. All we ask you, give us your name and address for the record. I was looking up to see if you were already going to be there.
I are.
All right, go ahead.
George Glassmeyer, 100 Dead Bank Road. A couple things as to the number of humans that have to vote where 2/3 of majority is required is dependent on how many members are present.
Yes.
Present.
It may not be 5, it might be 4, it might be 3.
That's true. That's true.
So, and majority and 2/3 are not the same, just for the record. As to the food truck issue, let me make some suggestions that you may want to integrate in some of the bullet points. First of all, require that the vendor have an A sticker from the
Health, yeah.
for health certification. 2, that he not sell any alcoholic beverages. 3, he not require any utilities from the town. 4, not play music, because that may disturb some of the residents or compete with other music that's already there. And you may want to limit how many times in a calendar year that vendor can be in the town, because I think you already have restrictions like that on fireworks vendors, if I'm not mistaken. How many times a year they can be in the town. I think it's only 2 months and they can't be back to back, as I recall. So you may want to take a look at that. Finally, I would suggest, and I think Laura's will tell you this, don't reinvent the wheel. Talk to Casey, West Columbia, that already have these ordinances, and see how they have theirs written. They might have some good ideas in there, and those administrators may tell you what does and doesn't work. Don't reinvent the wheel, and don't make the same mistakes that they've made. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
The health department's a good idea. Didn't occur to me. Thank you, George.
And was it Greenwood, not too long ago, that you sent me something on food trucks?
It was Greenwood or Greenville. It's been so long ago, I can't remember.
It was green something.
A couple years ago.
Was it?
Yeah, it's been a long time since we talked
I thought
about
it
that.
was like last couple months ago.
We only keep him here for his memory. So
Yeah.
he remembers
But
things.
they had something, I remember they had something that they wrote up about coming downtown and all that. You might look at theirs.
But like they all say, the only way for food trucks normally survive is having foot traffic.
Yeah.
We don't
really have
foot
it.
traffic
Up
generally.
at the park.
People aren't gonna wanna drive somewhere to go to a food truck and get their food back in the car.
Yeah.
If you got a special event, though, you can certainly
Yeah, that's correct, but we could.
would have the foot traffic.
3 a year. Not sure we really put it in our ordinance.
Well,
Well, that way you don't have to come back to council every time you want to have one.
yeah, we just have,
If
because
it's in the ordinance.
that church a couple of years ago, they had that concert, whatever they call it. They may want to invite some,
Right,
You know,
can
they-
have food trucks at
yeah.
a concert.
but they may, decide to have them if they're going to have if somebody wants a concert or that movie guy does the movies, he might decide to invite a food truck guy or something.
That movie guy, that's a good thing he does.
Yeah.
I like it.
All right, anyone else? Any discussions? None known. Executive session? No executive session needed. Next item is adjournment. Is there a motion for adjournment?
I make a motion.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And vote for everybody.
Eric, step into my office.
Oh, well, I'm good.
I think it's a repeat tonight anyway.
Yeah, you were talking about the movie night. I would love to have food trucks at the movie night, but if you've ever been over there, parking spot.
Oh, it's not?
Food trucks.
It's very
They-
How you doing?
Understanding of the way it's written. I'll certainly do that. Yeah, I would appreciate it. No problem, I'll make myself a note. All right, no problem. All right.
But I'm okay. I think I'm okay, I'm not sure.
So you changed it, you amended it. Now, put this, now, take this.
Another dollar. If I change that $1 on 4 quarters, I've changed